I saw something disturbing on Netflix. Have you guys watched that show, The Perfect Neighbor? It's so freaking sad. One, it caught my eye because the girl's last name was Owens that got killed. But basically, it's this white lady, this old white lady. She lives in this neighborhood where it's not really houses; it's a bunch of half houses. Do they call them duplexes when it's not one? It's all one story. It's it's like one house but two family houses, and this one white lady is out of control. Let me make sure I give her the proper due that she needs. It was so. I was on a plane. I was crying on a plane. It was so sad because it was the police body cams showing everything, and hold on just a second. So this is the overview. If you haven't seen it, watch it, but be by yourself because it's some emotional stuff. A seemingly minor neighborhood dispute in Florida escalates into deadly violence. Police body cam footage and investigative interviews expose the consequences of Florida's stand your ground laws. So the white lady's name is Susan Lorinx, Lorinczz, and she killed Ajika Owens with an S. And what made this so disturbing was a neighborhood, there's a lot of kids playing and everything, and this white lady would come out and she called the black kids the N-word. She tried to hit the kids a couple times, destroy their property. She kept lying on them, saying like they were bothering her, and they were just kids playing in the yard. And she called the cops so many times over like a year and a half that the cops would show up and just be like, we know what it is. And every time the cops come, she'd be no, they're bothering me. I'm trying to get some rest. They're waking me up. They're playing all hours of the night. And the cops like, it's 4 p.m. They're going to make noise. They're kids. They're on my private property. And like, there's a yard. There's no fence. If they kick a ball, it might go into your grass. It was just, it kept escalating, and it was hard because there was nothing you could do. Really, the cops had their hands tied. And it reminded me of, I remember when the first house I lived in Ohio, which was, I moved there about 18 years ago. 18 years ago, I lived there for 7 years, this house in Ohio, right? And we built a basketball court in our backyard. And again, none of the yards have fences in this neighborhood. So we built a half court, and all the kids would come over and play all the time. And I just told them, I said, look, man, if the sun's out, you can come play. I was like, I got a couple rules. I was like, one, if something breaks, tell me. Don't just leave it. Because it was one of them rims you could crank it. So a lot of times the kids would come over and they did, we had the crank in the house, but they say, hey, can we lower the rim, Mr. Owen? And I come down and crank it. And then, so these kids could dunk, these 8th graders and stuff. And then, but I knew if I'm letting them dunk, I'm taking a chance that, they could break something or hang on the rim or something like that. But that never happened. But anyways, I told the kids, I said, look, if anything breaks or anything happens, just tell me. Because the court was kind of close to the back windows, so I could, a ball could hit a window. It's not likely, but it could happen. Or you could be trying to throw at somebody, or kids could be goofing off and throw the ball too hard. I just said, make sure somebody tells me. Don't just have me come out here and find something's broke. Let me tell you something. Nothing ever was broke. Nothing ever went wrong. The only incident we ever had on that basketball court was somebody came and tried to start a fight with other kids. And everybody was like, it was somebody's cousin from out of town, and they were trying to start a fight. And everybody's like, you can't be fighting Mr. Owens, basketball court. He ain't gonna let us play. Or these called Mr. Gary. You can't fight Mr. Gary's backyard. He ain't gonna let us play. And I guess the girl threw the ball and it hit the house like boom. And either my ex-wife or my son told me about it later. And then the kids came over afterwards and told me the whole story. Hey, we're sorry, Mr. Gary. It was like, you know, she threw the ball at the house. She got mad and da-da-da, but we told her she don't live here. She's not allowed over here anymore. And that's why I appreciate it. But, you know, not only was it cool that the kids came and told me that, but it's also cool. It builds a rapport with the neighborhood and everything. And, you know, so that's one way to do things. This old white lady was out of control. And then she like really went off on her kids and took some of her kids' stuff. And then the Ajika Owens went over there and pounded on her door to try to get her kids' items. And the lady shot her through the door and killed her. And what made it so sad was, one, the door was dead bolted. She was not in fear of her life. She already called the cops, and she shot her less than 2 minutes later, and then she called 911. Said she feared for her life. And I was just like, what was so sad about it was the kids. The police officers had their body cams on, and you see the moment that her kids find out that their mom died and that lady shot her. And those kids were freaking devastated, especially the two boys. Man. And the cops couldn't really arrest her right away. They had to get all the facts. And they did their due diligence. And in this case, the justice system played out right. And I will say there was protest. The Ajika Owens was black, and it was an old white lady. So obviously race came to play for a little bit. But in the end, the protests were peaceful, never got violent, and she got put away for life, as she should have. And shouts out to everybody in that neighborhood that protested, because you made sure your voice was heard. You respectfully was talking to the police officers, and the police officers were being respectful to the citizens also. And that's one thing that I took away from this documentary that was so sad was, you know, the interaction, the relationship. Every cop was white that would show up at her door, this white lady. And it got to a point where they knew she was bullshitting. But the way they would talk to all the black neighbors, and it wasn't a broke neighborhood, but it definitely wasn't, you know, crushing it either. And as far as financially, these are probably people working paycheck to paycheck and, you know, just trying to get through life, basically. But you saw like the white cops interacting with the black adults, the men, the mothers, the fathers. And it was just like, oh, this is stuff that the media doesn't report on. The media wants you to think that a lot of cops are out there killing black people for no reason. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but this is also another side of it. You see the cops showing up, just having conversations. And you see the kids coming up going, you know, she took my roller skate. She took my roller skate. And I'm going, what, you know, what cop is going to pull up? And a white cop pulls up and a black kid comes to their car and goes, this lady stole my roller skate. You're not going to get mad at the kid. You're not going off on the kid, you know? So, you know, shouts out to the police department, everybody that just handled this case the right way. And I'm so glad that lady got locked up. And they found out that she researched Stand Your Ground, and she thought she had a case. And she was just a ticking time bomb waiting to happen. And she'd always act mild mannered when the cops would show up. But then one time they came and they knocked on her door and she goes, who is it? And then you kind of saw the real her. And then she like answered the door in a nightgown. And like she was acting like, oh, what? Like, I guess she ran her car into some kind of fence, some kind of property. And they called the cops on her. And then when the cops came, she didn't know who it was at first. So when they were knocking on her door, you could hear her yell, "Who is it?" And then they're like, "Police department." She goes, "I'll be out in a minute." And then she came out and she was very mama. "I'm sorry. I was taking my medicine and I was scared for my life." And then I was like, she's just an evil woman, you know? Listen, I always feel like this. If you don't want kids fucking with you, don't live in a neighborhood with kids. Move. Find a senior citizen community or adults only community. But if you're gonna live in a neighborhood with kids, you're gonna have to deal with some sounds during the day. You know what I mean? And you can go about it two ways. You can get mad at the kids, or you can play with them, or go talk to them, talk to the parents. "Hey, I usually nap between 12 and 3. You mind if they keep it down? Like, play on that side of the street during that time?" All you gotta do is go talk to people. Most people are reasonable. But she was just a bitch. You know? You know what? I couldn't sugarcoat it. She was a bitch. I'm so glad she's in jail. I feel so bad for those kids. But yeah, it was so sad, man. Seeing them kids when they found out their mom passed away. It was one of the saddest things I've ever seen on camera. Because it wasn't no acting. I just put myself in everyone's shoes. The dad came in, because the dad wasn't living with her, but the kid's dad came in and he's one that had to tell him. And it was just like, all because it's a crazy white lady that it's like when you talk about living around kids, it's almost like these people that go off on these airlines. And I'm going, you're selfish. Or if there's a baby crying or kids acting up, it's one thing being adults, but if there's kids acting up, listen, that's something you might have to deal with if you fly commercial. And if you don't want to deal with it, either drive or get a private plane. But if not, you might have to deal with a crying baby. I had a baby crying today on my flight. Nothing I could do about it. Baby was just crying. It stopped after about 20 minutes, but it was pretty loud for about 20 minutes. You know, and everybody on my flight today was just like, all right, we're dealing with it. Nobody was bitching. Nobody was like, "I wish that baby would shut up." I was like, nah, just crying baby. That's what they're going to do. Put yourself in the baby shoes. They can't talk. Something's wrong. The only way they can stress, "Hey, I'm uncomfortable," is to cry. That's it. So yeah, Perfect Neighbor was sad, man. But it was educational. It was, I don't want to say entertaining. It was just good. It was just good TV that had the saddest ending, yet the justice system played out the way it should have, you know? And you saw people protesting the right way, having discussions with the cops. They was like, look, if this is the other way around, if this would have been a black lady shooting a white lady, I don't think the black lady would be walking free, because that white lady was walking free for a while. But they didn't say it. They didn't blame the police officer they were saying it to. They were just saying the system in general. And the cops were great too. All the police officers that came to those neighborhoods, they all handled it. Even the way they spoke to the kids after their mom passed and everything, it was how you hope the police interact with everyday citizens. It's how you hope, you know. And nobody has brought that up really. That's one thing I noticed of how good the interaction was with the police. Because it was a lot of times it was the same cops coming over and over again. They were like, "This is the fifth time we've been in this neighborhood. The only person that complains about these kids is this one lady. No other house complains." And the lady was like, "Well, I don't know why they're always messing with me." I'm like, "Because it's you, bitch. It ain't them. It's you.